Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by David A. Fields. Hello, David.
Hi, Maria Isabel. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Happy Monday. We're
And to
here
you.
to answer, thank you. We're here to answer your questions and create success for your consulting firm. This is a space, very interactive space. You get to ask questions. We get to be put on the spot and give you insights about how to create success for you, for your clients, for your consulting firm. Everybody else who's here gets to participate and contribute to the discussion. It takes us a minute to see your comments, your questions. So if you're here, start writing your question right now so we can get to it today and say hello to us. Otherwise, we don't see you. We don't know you are here. And with that, Jaren, can you first share the first question that came in during the week? Thank you. Uh, David, this question is for you from Scott.
Okay.
What the most appropriate and fair, in your estimation, way to respond to a prospect who is asking you to break down your fees in a way that you're not comfortable with? They're asking us to break down fees into component parts so they can decide which parts they will do themselves and to save money. Okay, we will typically not break down our fees unless it's a matter of formality for procurement on an RFP that we expressly enter into knowingly they'll ask, and don't have any intention of offering this client a la carte services. All right. Hello, Michael. Hello, Daniel. And thank you, Scott, for your question. David, what do you say to Scott?
Okay, that was a long question. I'm still processing. But okay, so this is a situation. Client says, we want to know exactly what each part, this was the funny part. We want to know what each piece costs because because we want to know if we can do it ourselves. All right, I'm going to have to make some assumptions here. So I'm assuming that you asked why they want the breakdown, and that's what they told you, right? That they told you that they're trying to sort out ways to reduce the fees. So in that case, it appears that, so I'm going to have to make another assumption, which is in the context discussion in discovery, you didn't surface their fee tolerance. And now what's happened is they've indicated that their fee tolerance is limited, which in some ways is fortunate because now you can go back to them and test for fee tolerance and ask what the maximum feasible fee is and let them know that you'll develop a revised proposal that fits within their cap. Now, which is different from answering their question, right? You're saying, okay, I get it. You want lower fees. Tell me what the max is. We'll sort it out. And then as part of that discussion, you can indicate that you don't price projects based on time. You price project based on the work and the value you created. So that's probably how I would go about this one. What do you think, Maria Isabel?
I agree with you. I think sometimes, even when people test for fee tolerance, clients will come back and say, yeah, we looked it over, right? And now this is more than what we were anticipating, or all of that. When they actually have the numbers in front of them, they change their mind.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that happens more than any of us would ever want. But it does happen. And so in that scenario, it's a good tool to have, right? Go back and say, okay, now what's your number, right? And we'll adapt to that. And we will give you scenarios that meet that number versus you pulling it up together like puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, Scott, let us know whether that works or doesn't work and push back on the specific ask.
And the rest of you who are listening live or after on replay, if you have follow-up questions on that, ask us about it because that's an interesting one. Daniel's asked a question. Since I got the last one, you get this one, Maria Isabel. Let's see, Daniel, what you got? This question came up on a networking call I was on. I thought it would be a good one here. I have a question on contract language for timeout clauses. For example, a client stops responding or takes much longer than expected. Oh, okay, that's what you mean by timeout. I'd like the contract to automatically terminate or convert to a retainer after a fixed date. Does anyone use such a clause? It's interesting. What do you think? I think there's some assumptions built in, like around what kind of contract it is now, but go for it.
Right. And to me, this seems like this is probably not a project you're leading, or a project you have control over the timeline, or a project that is highly dependent on getting client information on a timely basis, because you're talking about termination, or the question was posed around termination, Daniel. I don't know if the clause is automatic termination of a contract. I haven't seen it that way. Maybe that's not the way I would advocate for approaching a relationship that you have built that has led to a consulting project. My suggestion would be rather go back and say, this calls for, let's sit back, let's look at project plans together, let's look at expectations of timelines, and let's have a reset. What is the roadblock? Why is the client taking long to respond? Why is the client taking too long to give information? Why is the client ghosting you in the middle of a project? That's an interesting and kind of pretty fundamental question to talk about. So it raises another set of alarm bells for me, that it's not necessarily lead to immediate termination. It leads to a conversation. I believe the project was around product development projects, and the client had a change in sponsorship. Okay, great. Good opportunity to say, let's reset, right? Let's reset. Let's pause for a moment. Let's have a meeting with the sponsors. Let's realign, more than necessarily go immediately to termination. David, what do you think?
Yeah. So obviously, you and I are fairly aligned. And thanks for this question, and for the explanations, Rolf, and also Daniel. It feels to me like there's a lot of opportunities to improve the other parts of the contract structure.
Right.
For instance, if you are paid primarily upfront and front loaded, then the client isn't going to want to terminate the contract. The client's going to want to keep moving on the contract, and that's how your contract should be structured, right? So financially, you should be paid upfront, which does put pressure on the client. Where we have seen clauses used, not a lot, but we have seen them, and we've used them ourselves, is responsiveness, and to give for lack of better words, a penalty. So you are paid more when the client is non-responsive. It doesn't cancel the project. It just makes the project that much more expensive. But it's usually used as a tool by a senior person to get the lower people to stay focused on the work, because they can say, look at this crazy consulting firm is going to charge us an extra $50,000 if you guys aren't responsive. So be responsive. So it's really it's there as much just to lend weight, and that I've seen work.
And if the consultant is worried about some sort of liability of the client saying, hey, but this project is ticking, I expect output from you, while the client is not showing up, then it's worthwhile to name it and say, hey, we're at an impasse, where in order to continue to make progress on our end, we need you. So until we have you, we have to either freeze or stop the work we're doing. Let's reconvene and make sure that doesn't happen, so the project is not negatively impacted. But you need to name it also and make it very explicit if that's a concern.
Yeah, that's good. But,
all right.
But ask follow-on questions if you have them. And another question came in, but we can't see whose name it was. At least I can't.
Right. So I want to read it because that one's going to be for you.
Oh, okay.
And happy Monday, John. What's the best way to uncover prospective consulting opportunities before and during a conversation with a new contact without overwhelming the prospect with questions or making them uncomfortable about revealing inside or competitive information? All right. So how to uncover prospective consulting opportunities during a conversation with a new contact.
Okay.
What do you say?
And
tell us a whole book about this. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Put it all up.
But the person who wrote this, could you also put your name in, because it doesn't come up, if you're willing. I want to reframe how you're thinking about conversations. If you're going into conversations thinking the conversation, my goal is to uncover an opportunity, then you're going in selling. And one thought for you is to not go in selling, is to instead just go in listening and recognizing that if there's an opportunity, it will present itself, because you can't create an opportunity. And when a prospect, if you just listen, stay right side up, let them talk about what's on their mind. And inevitably, a prospect will ask what you do. So they've got some sense of what you do. They will themselves try to match what's on their mind with what you do. They're not going to talk with you about the problems with their high schooler, for instance, because it's not relevant. But they are going to talk about things that they feel are like, at least adjacent. And then you just listen. And if the opportunity presents itself, if you go, oh, wait a second, he's talking about this chocolate chips melting problem, which is one I usually use, then you can use the turn. And the turn is a technique specifically designed to help you transition from a relationship building, listening conversation to an exploration about an opportunity. But you don't need to ask a lot of questions. You just need to listen and be present. Marie-Isabelle, is that fair, or you want to add or push back?
Absolutely fair. And thank you, Lisa, for clarifying that it was you and it was your question. So
Thank you,
let
Lisa.
us know, Lisa, if it answers your question and it gives you the bridge you're looking for between asking enough questions and getting the conversation to be focused and guided, and not asking too many, right? And not making people uncomfortable. So let us know. Also, Rolf, you were saying the timeout clause is about how to keep a project moving forward, but not indefinitely, right? You don't want to be stuck in a cycle where the client is expecting you to extend the project indefinitely. That's for sure. And you're suggesting client cost delays are subject to a 15% surcharge each 2 weeks of delay. Well, that depends on how your contract was worded. Yeah. Again, I would suggest push for a conversation, push for a meeting. If you need to expand the scope of your project, and this suggests to a scope expansion, it's better to do it by mutual agreement and to define the boundaries of your expansion rather than to do it through a penalty system. And Lisa is saying she's trying to get sufficient information to build a relationship. Exactly.
Yeah, but you get information to build a relationship, Lisa, by listening. Starting off with a right side up inquiry, which is how we start every conversation with a prospect and client. What's going to make this conversation useful and helpful and valuable for you? Right. And talk about that. They're going to share information. If you listen to the information that's on their mind, you allow them to talk about their favorite subject, which is them. That builds the relationship. In other words, don't make this harder than it needs to be. And can I jump back in also on Rolf's question, Marie-Isabelle? I don't even know how you would apply that. Again, it sounds like there's there's other structural challenges, Rolf, to address, because what would be subject to this 15% surcharge? The entire project? So if there's any delay, you got a $250,000 project, there's a delay on one part of it. The entire project is 15% more every 2 weeks. I think most folks wouldn't sign that. So, I think there's some challenges built into that. Lisa, did that answer your question? If not, come back with a follow-on question and either email it to us or type it in here, and we'll also address it next week. Rolf's got more, but believe it or not, it's as crazy as it sounds, we've almost hit the 15 minutes. So thank you for these great questions, and thank you for spending time with us. Just a few things before you go. I think a number of you listening today are solo consultants. If you're a solo consultant and you've not been to a Solo Practice Accelerator, I highly recommend you come. It's an amazing program. Registration is open, and I think early bird registration may end this week. I don't know for sure. But don't wait to register. It's an extraordinary investment in your business, and so I would do that. Also, don't miss us on Mondays. Put Monday Live in your calendar, and that way it makes it really easy. You come back here and you join us and get to ask smart questions, and we like to see you and talk with you. And for that same reason, if you're not connected to me or you're not connected to Maria Isabel on LinkedIn, here's Jaren put up somewhere there our LinkedIn things. So connect to us because we want to be connected with you so we can talk with you. That's it. Amazing. Another 15 minutes. Thank you for being here. Have just an exceptional week. And while you're doing that, remember, consulting is not about you. It's about them. Okay. So focus on your clients, give them value, give them kindness. And we will see you next week. Take care, all.
Ciao. Thank you.